I trust that you're having a good summer and that you're keeping yourself and your family safe. Today I'm here to talk to you about a couple topics on the 8-hour review. The first one is to review railroad crossing procedures. This is an important topic to review because during the past few years the most serious incidents or accidents have been bus and train accidents. Many of us don't have a railroad crossing on our route, and so if we go to take a field trip and there's a railroad crossing, it can cause panic because it's been a while since we've done it. Even those of us that have a railroad crossing, sometimes we can develop bad habits, and so it's an important thing to review the proper procedures. The new driver training curriculum has gone to a 5 alive format, which makes it easier to remember the steps. But in reality, it is the same basic procedures that has always been. The first step is the approach. Second step is getting quiet on the bus. The third step is to stop, look, and listen. The fourth step is to do a double take before you cross the tracks. And the fifth step is to go. So let's take a look at each one of these. Step number one, you want to approach with care. Slow down and prepare to stop. If you are on a multi-lane highway, get in the furthest right lane. Tap the brakes 4 or 5 times when slowing down so people know you're going to be stopping. Activate your 4-way flashers 200 feet before the crossing. And this really is the only change that they've made. It used to be 150 to 200 feet, but now it is simply 200 feet. You then ask for quiet. Request silence from your students. Turn off your radios, fans, heaters. Most of us will be doing that with the noise kill switch. Check the traffic control devices. Make sure the railroad crossing devices are not flashing. Step 3, stop, look, and listen. Stop no closer than 15 feet or further than 50 feet from the track, in a position that gives a clear view of the track in both directions. Set the parking brake, shift into neutral. Open the driver's window and service door. Look and listen for a train. The double take. This is where you close the door, shift to the lowest gear, releasing the parking brake. Make sure you have enough room to clear the track completely, and then look again in both directions. And step 5 is go. Proceed quickly and smoothly across the tracks. Do not change gears while crossing the tracks. Turn off your hazards and noise abatement switch when the bus has cleared the tracks, and shift back into drive and proceed. We're now going to watch a training video that was made last year. You may notice that I will say 150 to 200 feet instead of the just 200 feet because that was the standard at the time. Otherwise, the steps shown match what we have just talked about. Here we're coming up to a railroad crossing. We come up to the railroad crossing. If we were on a 4-lane highway, we want to make sure we're all the way in the right lane. As we come up to it, we're going to tap our brakes 4 or 5 times, 150 to 200 feet before it. We're going to turn on our hazards. We're going to turn off our noise makers, and we're going to ask the kids to be quiet. As we come up to the track, we're going to stop 15 to 50 feet from the track. When we come to that complete stop, we're going to put our parking brake on, we're going to put it in neutral. We're going to open up our window, we're going to open up our door. We're going to look and listen both ways for a train. Once we don't see or hear any train, we're going to close our door all the way down. We're going to put it in drive, we're going to then put it in the lowest gear of drive. We're going to take our parking brake off. As we start to go across the tracks, we're going to check to make sure that we have enough room to get across the track safely without having to stop. We then start across. As we start across, we look and listen both ways again, going across as quickly and as smoothly as we can. Once we get to the other side, we're going to turn our hazards off, turn our noise makers back on, and put it back into drive, and proceed. So that is railroad crossing in a nutshell. The next topic that I'm going to talk about is emergency procedures. Having, in my opinion, one of the best maintenance garages in the state, we tend to have less mechanical breakdowns than some other districts.
We also have been fortunate that there have a limited number of incidents, also known as accidents, over the past few years. But it is important to review what the proper procedures are so that if it should occur, we are as prepared as we can be to act in a safe, professional, and calm manner. Even the most competent bus driver is confronted by critical situations created by various causes. It could be hazardous roadway conditions, mechanical malfunction, outside forces or obstacles, or driving failures. A critical situation is any situation which may endanger your students or result in a collision. The driver is in full charge of the bus at all times. Knowing proper emergency procedures, evacuation procedures, and incident scene procedures is a must. These areas of responsibility deal directly with the safety and care of your passengers in the event of an incident or emergency situation. School bus driver must know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Critical situations allow little or no time for decision making and frequently produce an incorrect response. A driver will make close to 20 major decisions every mile that they drive. A major decision is classified as one that could be life-threatening. The element of surprise influences a driver's actions. Lack of knowledge and skill, or a lack of practice of that knowledge and skill, can also influence whether a driver is surprised. We all tend to have a lack of practice of that knowledge and skill over the summer break. And courtesy of COVID, we have experienced a longer spring break than usual. It is so important to really pay attention as we begin the school year. We are no longer in our cars. There's no turning on red. Our turns are going to require a much wider swing. Remember to rely on your mirrors to know where you are on the roadway. When driving any type of commercial motor vehicle, there will be instances which cause you to experience emergency driving. Vehicle emergencies occur when tires, brakes, or other critical parts fail. This would also be known possibly as a breakdown. Traffic emergencies occur when two vehicles are about to collide. Avoiding a crash depends on how well you take action in either one of those situations. Driver alertness following the 12 to 15 second scan ahead and safe space cushion for braking are the most common methods for avoiding an incident. There are times when stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. If you do not have enough time to stop, you may want to steer away from it. You can almost always turn to miss an obstacle more quickly than you can stop. Steering to avoid a crash, keep both hands on the wheel. Do not apply the brakes to avoid skidding. You then want to counter steer or turn back in the other direction as soon as you've cleared whatever was in your path. Know where to steer. That's usually going to be to your right, but it is based on the situation. Your mirror scans will help you know what lanes you can safely use. You do want to avoid leaving the roadway if possible. Sometimes, however, this may be the only action which will prevent a crash. Here are some guidelines if that occurs. If you're leaving the roadway, you want to avoid braking until your speed has reduced to 20 miles an hour. Stay on the shoulder until you come to a complete stop if you can. This could prevent overcorrecting errors when you try to get back up on the roadway. If you must return to the roadway due to a ditch, culvert, pedestrians, or other objects, hold the wheel tightly and turn sharply back onto the road. When both front wheels are on a paved surface, counter steer immediately. These two steers should be made as a single steer, counter steer movement. Another thing we need to do is recognize other drivers. particularly if they seem distracted. This is often referred to as defensive driving, recognizing that the greatest danger may be the lack of attention by other drivers. Here are a few things to look for. Vehicles drifting within their own lane or over the lane dividers. Vehicles traveling at inconsistent speeds. Drivers preoccupied with maps, food, cigarettes, cell phones, makeup, or any other objects. Drivers who appear to be in conversations with their passengers, particularly if it's a very animated conversation where they're waving their arms or they're angry. Mechanical failure or breakdown procedures. Despite preventive maintenance, buses will have mechanical failures. Knowing what to do and when to do it if a breakdown occurs on the road. You want to stop the bus as far to the right as possible, on the shoulder if it is available. Secure the bus and activate your four-way hazard lights. Usually you will keep the students on the bus. If the location of the bus is unsafe, evacuate the passengers to a safer location. Place reflectors in accordance with state and federal laws, and we will talk more about that in just a moment. Telephone, radio, or contact the proper school authorities given the bus location and the description of the breakdown. See that all students are delivered to their destination. Remember, the driver is responsible for the safety of all their passengers. And then you want to complete any maintenance repair reports that need to be done. We talked about those emergency reflectors. Since we rarely have to put a reflector triangle out, it's easy to forget the proper placement. So we'll go over those now. If you are on a 2-lane or undivided highway, you want to place that first reflector 10 feet from the rear corner of the bus. The second reflector is 100 feet or 40 paces to the rear of the bus so that it can be seen but not run over. The third is 100 feet or 40 paces to the front of the bus. If the bus is blocking a traffic lane, all reflectors should be placed in that lane. If the bus is on the shoulder of the roadway, the reflectors should be placed on the edge of the roadway. Reflectors on a hill or curve. This gets a little different. The first one is the same. You place it 10 foot from the rear corner of the bus. But the second one, it may go for anywhere from 100 to 500 feet or 40 to 200 paces to the rear of the bus so that you can give ample warning to motorists. So you want to put it beyond the hill or beyond the curve. The third reflector will be, again, 100 feet or 40 paces to the front of the bus. Once again, if the bus is blocking a traffic lane, all reflectors should be placed in that lane. If the bus is on the shoulder, the reflectors should be placed on the edge of the roadway. On a one-way or divided highway, your first reflector is 10 feet from the rear of the bus. Second one is 100 feet or 40 paces to the rear of the bus, so it can be seen but not run over. The third reflector, 200 feet or 80 paces to the rear of the bus. Once again, if a bus is blocking a traffic lane, all reflective should be in that lane. If it's on the shoulder, the reflectors should be placed on the roadway. Now these aids that you see on the screen showing you where to place them. If you would like to have a copy of those, so you can place them right there in your triangle box, just contact the trainer and we'll be glad to provide you with them. Probably the most important way to avoid mechanical breakdown is to monitor your gauges, scanning them often as you drive. But before you leave the bus garage, you should also have checked out the key gauges as part of your pre-trip. Oil pressure is one of the most important gauges. You have a gauge shown here that shows the exact oil pressure. On most buses, you'll also have a message center that will give you that pressure. As you see, it's showing 20 psi, which this bus will usually run 20 to 25 at idle and go up to 60 under a load. Another temperature gauge that's important is your engine coolant temperature gauge. You have a gauge that shows the engine coolant temperature. On most buses, you'll also have on the message center a reading that will show you the exact temperature. This one is showing 192. This bus usually runs 190 to 200. Your next one is your voltmeter. On some of the older buses, there is a gauge that shows that. On this bus, it is a digital reading on the message center. And here it shows 13.9. It should read between 12 and 14.5 volts. That is the amount of volts that the alternators are putting back into the batteries. If it is too low or too high, it would indicate a potential problem. Your air pressure gauge shows the normal, your pressure on your tanks. The normal operating range should be between 90 and 120. At 125 psi, a relief valve should let off any excess pressure. When you do your pre-trip lab test, you should see that at 60 psi, an alarm will sound, as well as a visual light noting low air pressure. And at 40 to 20 psi on most buses, the button will pop out. You may have noticed as I was talking that there's another light that's on that might need to be checked out. And it is the check engine light. On newer buses, there's an amber light and a red light. Normally, if it's amber like this one is, it's not urgent. If it is red, however, that would usually indicate you need to find a safe place to pull over, shut the bus off, and call dispatch. Some older buses might only have one light and it'll be red. Even if you have an amber light, you want to make sure that Mark is aware of it and that your buses can be checked. I also want to discuss another feature on buses that seem to cause confusion, and that is the anti-lock braking system. ABS is a computerized system that keeps your wheels from locking up during hard braking. It's important to realize it does not increase or decrease your normal braking capability. It's designed to help keep you in control of your vehicle by preventing skidding. You'll apply the brakes in the same manner as you always would. If an ABS light appears on the dash, it does not mean your brakes will fail. You will still have your normal brakes, but it may indicate a problem with the ABS system. Therefore, it does need to be reported and checked out at the end of your route or trip so that it can be repaired if necessary. ABS does not give super brakes. It won't allow you to drive faster, follow more closely, or drive less carefully. It doesn't necessarily shorten the stopping distance. It helps maintain control. So if you have a mechanical failure or brake loss, your indicator is going to be, you're going to have a low pressure buzzer engages. Remember, it's going to go down at 60 psi. You're going to hear that buzzer, and you're going to see a light on the dash. Corrective action, you want to use your engine as a brake, downshift if possible. Use your remaining pressure to stop the bus safely, and then call for assistance. You have a steering failure, the indicator is going to be your steering doesn't respond or responds strangely. Corrective action, grip the wheel firmly, decrease your speed, stop quickly and safely, secure the area, and call for assistance. A tire blowout, you indicate on the front, it'll be pulling in the direction of the flat. On the rear, the bus may swerve or sway violently. Corrective action, grip the steering wheel, release the accelerator, brake gradually, move off the road safely, secure the vehicle, and call for assistance. Overheating. Indicator is going to be your temperature gauge or warning light. This will happen at 220 degrees. Remember, on this bus, we have a temperature gauge, and we have one that shows the exact temperature. But if it does get high, the entire message center will then say high temperature, instead of the normal, what you see on the screen now. The corrective action: you want to pull off the road safely, make sure the parking brake is set, the bus is in neutral, activate your heat pumps and heaters, run it at a fast idle. If cooling is not observed, turn your engine off. Don't remove the radiator cap, and call for assistance. Stop arm, crossing gate malfunction. All buses must have a functioning stop arm that extends when the red warning lights are activated. Buses equipped with a crossing gate, which most of our buses are now, the gate must be functional and extend when the red warning lights are activated. If either the stop arm or crossing gate are not functioning, find a safe place to pull over and call for assistance. Next thing we talk about is rollovers. And you may say, why are we talking about that with mechanical failures? Because they're not really a mechanical failure. They are an incident or an accident. Well, the fact is that many times rollovers are caused by mechanical failures such as a tire blowout, and that's why it's included here. But let's talk about rollovers. A rollover is a type of vehicle incident which results in a vehicle tipping over on its side or roof. Rollovers have the highest risk of fatality than any other type of vehicle incident, especially on a bus. Causes of it are unnecessary turning and sharp turns. Techniques for avoiding a rollover: turn only enough to clear the obstacle in your path, avoid sharp turns if possible, and driving slowly through the curves. Incidents on a national, state level: statistics show that a school bus driver is at fault about half of the time, with fail to yield the right-of-way being the most common driver violation. Over 90% of incidents are a result of driver error. Less than 10% are caused by mechanical failure. Defective brakes are the most common mechanical factor. However, mechanical failures cause very few incidents. Incident procedures. There are prescribed procedures to follow if a driver is involved in an incident. No two incidents are exactly the same. The sequence of things that are suggested here may not be practical in every case. Good common sense should always be the rule. A driver's primary responsibility is to his or her passengers. If a driver is physically unable to perform their duties, they should direct others to perform. The most responsible student should be asked to help. The following procedures are recommended. Secure the bus. Set your parking brake, turn off your ignition, turn on your hazards. Check on your students. Find out if there are any injuries. Remain calm and reassure your students. Contact the bus garage. Radio in or call to dispatch. They will contact the police or any other needed emergency personnel. Be prepared to inform them how many students are on board and if there are any injuries. Determine the stability of the scene. Under normal circumstances, the student should remain on the bus unless the bus is on a railroad track or in immediate danger. If an evacuation is necessary, the driver is to determine a safe place, at least 100 feet away, that an appointed student is to take the other students to and remain there. Vehicles involved should not be moved until law enforcement officers advise you to do so. Produce necessary documentation. Police are going to expect you to have your driver's license, the bus insurance card and registration, a roster, and a seating chart with the location of the students on board. Your emergency cards, rosters, and seating charts will help you to provide this. But remember, they're going to want to know the exact seating of the students that were on board at the time of the incident. During the investigation of the incident, do not release any of the students to anyone unless directed to do so by school administration. You want to cooperate with police and school administration while being investigated. Be patient, evaluate your questions, and give clear, concise answers. The driver should never admit fault or try to assign blame. Say less, not more. Report the facts of the incident to the school official in charge of transportation and assist in completing the necessary incident report forms. And in our school district, that's going to be Rob that you're going to be dealing with on that. Driver may be required to submit to an alcohol and/or controlled substance screening in accordance with state and federal laws. And I will tell you, it is my belief that it is always to your advantage if you have that, because that doesn't allow any room for someone to try to say something later. It is important to realize that you will never be left on your own. As soon as you call the bus garage, Rob Hale, Mark Yaden, and Todd Cox will all be on their way to the scene, as well as the principal of the schools whose students are on board, if they are available. They will help you through every step that needs to be taken. As a school bus driver, you are required to report any and all incidents, no matter how minor, to your director or your supervisor. So that means if there's any damage to the bus at all, or any damage to any property, such as a fence, a mailbox, or whatever, it needs to be reported. Incidents involving serious student injury or fatality or failure of safety equipment shall be reported to KDE immediately, and again, that will be something that will be done by Rob Hale. The data is reported to the state and used for annual training and federal reporting. Let's talk about bus evacuations. Critical situations that require bus evacuation. Again, normally students should remain on the bus, but there are situations where the bus should be evacuated. During the evacuation, students should be moved to a safe location determined by the driver at least 100 feet away or more from the bus, and remain there until the bus driver is determined that no danger exists. So what kind of situations require the bus to be evacuated? The first would be fire or danger of fire. If the engine or any portion of the bus is on fire. If you're near an existing fire and unable to move the bus. If you're near the presence of gasoline or other combustible material, or if smoke is present. You also want to have the bus evacuated if you are in an unsafe location. In the event that the bus is stopped due to any emergency situation, the driver must determine if it is safe for the students to remain on the bus. In normal traffic conditions, the bus should be visible for 300 feet or more. A bus stop beyond a hill or curve where such visibility does not exist should be a reason to consider evacuation. You must evacuate if the final stopping point is in the path of a train or adjacent to any tracks. If the stopping position for the bus may change and increase the danger, such as being near a body of water and the bus may move into the water, or near a cliff or steep drop-off and the danger of overturning. If the stop position of the bus is such that there is a danger of collision, you must evacuate. The 8 emergency evacuation plans and procedures. The first 3 are our primary ones: our front door, our rear door, and our side door. The next 4 are combinations of those first 3. The front and rear door, front and side door, rear and side door, and the front, rear, and side door. And the last one are the emergency windows, hatches, and a windshield evacuation. So the front door Very simply, everyone exits through the front entrance. This is the safest evacuation and should be used whenever it is possible. The rear door, everyone exits through the rear door. But remember, most of us have rear engine buses. So that means it's not going to be a rear door, it's going to be a rear window, and it should be treated as an emergency window, and it should be one of your last choices because of the steep drop off to get out. The side door, everyone exits through the side door. Again, this is possible danger because this choice could be putting the students into traffic. You want to make sure they're safe before you do that. You want to have helpers take position outside the bus to assist the exiting students. Leader takes the children to a safe location determined by the driver, at least 100 feet away from the bus, and the driver must check the bus to make sure every student has safely exited. Now the other evacuations, we have the multiple combination. The front and rear door, front and side door, rear and side door, the front, rear, and side door. Multiple exits should only be used if they are necessary. Using more than one exit requires additional helpers and leaders and gives the driver much less control of what's going on. Remember, the student's safety is our #1 priority. And the last one, the emergency windows, which on our rear engine buses includes the rear window, your roof hatches and windshields. These exits are ones you should hope you never have to use because they're usually only going to be used in the event of a rollover or water submersion. They are never practiced as part of the required emergency evacuation drills each year. The drills should be conducted 4 times a year during each school year. The required time to conduct them is within the first full week of school and the first full week of the second semester. The other 2 drills within the school year, preferably one in the late fall and one in the early spring. Drills should be planned in advance with the school administration. All drills should be supervised by the principal or persons assigned by the principal. The driver is the one who administers the drill. The driver should have a briefing session with their helpers. All students should be carefully informed about the drill. It never should be a surprise. Drills should be held on school property, not on bus routes. The driver should stay on the bus during the drill, follow these steps. Stop the bus, set the parking brake, stand, open the door, face the passengers and get their attention. Give the command for the evacuation, emergency drill, remain seated, then indicate the method of evacuation such as front door evacuation. Release the students 1 row at a time from each side. Usually at the schools, they will have someone timing how long it takes the students to get off. You will be keeping a count, and at the end you will sign a sheet that you've done that bus evacuation drill. Emergency equipment, drivers should know how and when to use equipment before an emergency or incident happens. The location and operation of each piece of equipment should be known. Your hazard lights, your reflectors, your first aid kit, body fluid cleanup kit, fire extinguisher, and seatbelt cutter. The hazard flashers should be on the steering column or instrument panel. Good judgment should be used when turning them on. They should only be used to warn traffic or in a dangerous situation. Your reflectors, there are 3 red reflectors located on your bus in the marked compartment. Follow directions for placement that we talked about earlier. And as I said, you can get a sheet that has those aids that you can put right in that box so that when it comes time that you have to set those out, it will help you remember where they have to be set. First aid kit is located in the driver's compartment or in the bulkhead. Items used should be replaced immediately. Most of the items in the first aid kit are used to control bleeding. The 3 primary first aid procedures: restore breathing, stop bleeding, and prevent shock. Body fluid cleanup kit located in the driver's compartment or on the bulkhead. Again, items used should be replaced immediately. It's used to clean up blood, vomit, urine, or any other bodily fluids. The kit includes rubber gloves, eye shield and face mask, absorbent beads, and biohazard disposal bag. Fire extinguisher. School bus must carry at least one 3A 40 BC type fire extinguisher. 3A means it will extinguish 3 square feet of a Class A fire. 40 BC means it'll large enough to extinguish a Class B or C fire covering 40 square feet. Class A is combustible materials such as wood, paper, textile fabrics, and rubbish. Class B, flammable liquids such as gasoline, oil, paints, or grease. And Class C is electrical. Operating the fire extinguisher, you want to remove it from the back bracket, hold it upright, pull the safety pin, stand upwind if possible to prevent smoke and heat coming onto you. Squeeze the handle in an on and off motion. Aim the nozzle at the base of the fire using a sweeping motion if it's for oil or gas. Keep in mind, fire extinguishers' use is secondary to getting the passengers off the bus. Safety of the students should always be first. Your seatbelt cutters should be stored in a place that's within the driver's reach. It is very critical on special needs buses where every seat has a seatbelt. In the event of a rollover incident, the seatbelts may not release. Special care should be used to ensure that injury does not occur when the seatbelt is suddenly released when it is cut. Drivers in full charge of the bus at all times. Knowing proper emergency procedures, evacuation procedures, and incident scene procedures is a must. These areas of responsibility deal directly with the safety and care of the passengers in the event of an incident or emergency situation. Your role, your responsibility, is to know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Thank you very much.